This could be a steal for the Boston Celtics. Point guard Tyus Jones, who was recently traded to the Washington Wizards this offseason, has been wandering around the trade market, and the Washington Wizards are wanting a low asking price for a guard who can be a dynamic piece on a championship contending team as a backup point guard. We're exploring the potential that the Boston Celtics have in going acquiring this guard, as he's a great guard at the starting level, but as a backup is an excellent backup. All of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz. But before we dive into this Tyus Jones news, I'd like to say that roughly 78% of our viewers are not subscribed, and we'd greatly appreciate it if you guys hit that big old red subscribe button and join the Celtics Digest family. We want to hit our goal of 4,000 subscribers, so if you want to make sure to stay up to date on daily Boston Celtics content and coverage, hit that subscribe button, as you definitely will not regret it. But let's dive into the news at hand today, exploring a possible backcourt steal for the Boston Celtics and looking at a guy in Tyus Jones. Now, like I mentioned, Tyus Jones was recently acquired by the Wizards in the last offseason in that three-team deal that involved Kristaps Porzingis. With the Memphis Grizzlies, he was an excellent backup guard for when Ja Morant had his injuries last year and stepped up to be a great starter. So he's valued as a great low-tier end starter in the NBA, but honestly, his role in the backup is what makes him dominant. And if we want to look at this tweet today from NBA Central, we can see from Jake Fisher that the Wizards are willing to move off Tyus Jones for multiple second-round picks. Rival executives have indicated a confidence that the Washington will ultimately be willing to move on from Tyus Jones for a package of multiple second-round picks. Last year's trade deadline did see various players get dealt for that, as many as 4 or 5 second-round picks. And the one thing that's great about the Boston Celtics is they have a plethora of those second-round picks that the Washington Wizards are interested in. The Washington Wizards last offseason made some big moves, trading obviously Bradley Beal and bringing in a guy in Jordan Poole for Chris Paul. This ultimately kind of shaked up their roster. They re-signed Kyle Kuzma. We didn't know the direction that they wanted to go in, but as they've looked at the bottom of this leaderboard and their young star in Bilal Coulibaly kind of being their main focus and centerpiece, the Washington Wizards are wanting to tank and willing to move off of any guy that has any value that they can get, and draft capital is what they want, as it is expected that Washington will be heavily going after draft capital. Now, the Celtics obviously are a great contending team, and even though Payton Pritchard has stepped up greatly for the Boston Celtics at the backup point guard position recently, Tyus Jones would be a step above Payton Pritchard and help the Boston Celtics in that backup point guard role. If we want to look at Tyus Jones' stats, you guys can see 12.3 points on the average this year with 2.9 total rebounds and 6.3 assists. He's shooting right around 49% from the field, 40% from 3, and 74% from the free throw. Tyus Jones is one of the league's best plus-minus guys and has one of the best assist-to-turnover ratios in the whole NBA at the point guard position. And for the Boston Celtics, who just saw a game last night that had an abundance of turnovers, Tyus Jones could be that fit scheme for the Boston Celtics at that position. The only kind of hiccup when dealing with a Tyus Jones trade is obviously the Boston Celtics' contracts and who they'd be able to move to possibly get a guy like Tyus Jones. Now, if we want to keep looking at this, we can look at Tyus Jones' contract, and we can see that this season he is making $14 million, but he is a unrestricted free agent next season. So a team that could be looking to bring in Tyus Jones as, a nice backup point guard-esque player could look to move off him in the next season if they just want to bring him in for this nice championship run, and that's something that the Boston Celtics could look to do. Now, like I mentioned, $14 million for the Boston Celtics is going to be difficult for the Boston Celtics to, make a deal happen, just because the Celtics are so set with their contracts. If we want to look at the Celtics contracts for this year, this is courtesy of Spot Track. You guys can see Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, both of those guys are making around $36 million. Tatum roughly around the same with around $30 million with Jaylen Brown. So the only makeable contract that the Celtics could use to trade for a guy in Tyus Jones are guys in Derrick White, who's making roughly $18 million, Al Horford, who's making $10 million, Payton Pritchard, who's making 4, and then a bunch of the smaller guys. Now, obviously, the Boston Celtics would not be able to throw, 4 or 5 of these guys into the Washington Wizards to get a deal done, as it would not be able to happen because the Washington Wizards would have too many guys on their roster. They wouldn't want to have to go through the trouble of waiving all of these guys. It would just be very, very complicated. So for the Boston Celtics to get a deal done, the most likely package that they'd have to send out would be a guy in Al Horford or a guy in Derrick White. Now, personally, a guy like Derrick White, I don't think should be traded for a guy in Tyus Jones. Derrick White has proven that he's been this all defensive guy for the Boston Celtics and really stepped up in this role for this Boston Celtics team, and I view him as an untouchable, as many other Celtics fans do. A guy like Al Horford has also stepped up for the Boston Celtics as this big veteran for this Celtics team. And even though his contract is around the same, that would be the person that would probably get moved in the deal. Do I think that Al Horford will get traded for a guy in Tyus Jones? No. Do I think that is a possibility? Yes. Al Horford is getting a little bit older. The Boston Celtics could look for this backup point guard position, and they could, do a trade with Al Horford and some of those smaller contracts, or possibly Al Horford and Payton Pritchard. The only problem involving Payton Pritchard, though, is the poison pill contract, which is in effect where if the Celtics were to trade Payton Pritchard, it would affect his contract that he's making next year. As you guys know, the Celtics signed Payton Pritchard to an extension in the offseason, so that the value of him would be getting sent out would be $7 million, but the team taking it back would have to take on that $7 million. It wouldn't be $4 million. So the Celtics doing Al Horford and Payton Pritchard, it would be a combined $17 million, taking in Tyus Jones on that 15, and it would be able to be worked out. But then the Celtics would have to, use a guy in Namus Keita, who they could possibly call up to bring up and be that energy guy for the Boston Celtics, or even a guy in Oshae Brissett to fill in that role. Do I think that this is going to happen with this Boston Celtics team? Absolutely not. I think that the Boston Celtics will keep what they have intact. They want to keep their starting 5. Al Horford has taken this veteran role, has taken a step back, but when he's in that starting line for the Boston Celtics team, he is absolutely killing it in the stats and putting up his best stats for the Celtics when he is starting in that role. So ultimately, the Boston Celtics need to keep Al Horford for that veteran leadership, that locker room presence. He's best friends with Jayson Tatum, the Celtics superstar. You need to keep him ingrained. He succeeded so much as a Celtics role player and a Celtics veteran. A guy like Payton Pritchard, I also think, can continue to grow as we've seen in the last couple months in December and January. He's really started to flourish and find his rhythm with this Boston Celtics team, and I really think he's going to hit his stride by the time playoff comes, and his contract will be a great valued one for Payton Pritchard by the start of next season. I obviously think Tyus Jones is a great player, but this top 6, 7, 8 guys I think doesn't need to be moved. And if the Celtics are looking to make a move, I think the one way that they can use is that Grant Williams traded player exception, that $6.25 million trade player exception. That's where you're going to want to use those second round picks that the Boston Celtics acquired last year during the draft, trading down to get Jordan Walsh. You're going to want to attach some of those with that traded player exception to go get you a guy that's under $6.25 million. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about this Tyus Jones news and this Boston Celtics trade deadline in general. Who do you guys want to see the Boston Celtics go after and get? And if those guys are available, let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Velez, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.